I, 37 male, have been married to wife for almost 9 years. We have no kids, thank God, given what's happened. The last 2 to 3 years of our marriage have been increasingly toxic, with her threatening divorce anytime she didn't get her way. Her favorite line during arguments? "I'll leave you with nothing." At first, these threats devastated me. I come from a family where marriage means something, and I genuinely thought we'd work through our issues. But after the 20th time hearing her scream about taking everything in a divorce, something in me just clicked. For context, I'm an electrical engineer making about $145,000 annually. Wife works in pharmaceutical sales, pulling in around $90,000. When we first met, I had already purchased our house pre-marriage and had about $220,000 in various investments and retirement accounts. She brought about $35,000 in student debt and a leased BMW to the marriage. Over the years, I paid off her student loans because we're a team and added her name to my house because that's what married couples do. My parents raised me to believe marriage is a partnership, and I operated on those principles. Until last month. It was a typical Tuesday evening. I was working late finishing a project, and wife called screaming because I hadn't texted her that I'd be late. Mind you, I was only 40 minutes later than usual. The conversation quickly escalated to her favorite catchphrase. "I swear to God, I'll divorce you and take everything. You'll be living in your car while I enjoy our house." Instead of arguing back like I usually would, I simply said, "Okay," and hung up. Then I called my attorney, who's also a good friend, and asked if he could meet me for lunch the next day. I had a plan. The next morning, I went to work as usual. Wife was still sleeping when I left, probably hungover from the bottle of wine she drank after our call. At lunch, I laid everything out for my attorney, including the years of threats. He wasn't surprised. Apparently, this is pretty common. What was uncommon was what I wanted to do about it. First, he advised me to document everything. I already had a folder of texts where she threatened to take me for everything and leave me with nothing. Sometimes over the most trivial things like forgetting to pick up her dry cleaning or not answering her calls immediately. I had recordings of several arguments where she made these threats, legal in our state with one-party consent. My attorney said this would be crucial. Then we discussed my assets. The tricky part was the house. I had added her to the deed a few years back, but the mortgage was still only in my name. My investments were mostly separate except for our joint brokerage account with about $175,000. That evening, wife acted like nothing had happened, typical after her blow-ups. She even suggested we plan a vacation. I smiled and nodded while my mind raced through my checklist. Over the next week, I methodically executed my plan. 1. Withdrew my portion, about $110,000, from our joint investment account and moved it to a new account in my name only. 2. Changed the direct deposit from my paychecks to my personal account that she never bothered to look at. 3. Documented all of our assets, including taking photos of everything valuable in the house. 4. Call my parents to see if I could stay with them temporarily if needed. They live about an hour away. 5. Most importantly, I gathered concrete proof that I had purchased the house before marriage and had been making all mortgage payments from my separate account. The following Tuesday, exactly 1 week after her last blow-up, she started in again because I didn't compliment her new haircut enthusiastically enough. As she worked herself into a frenzy, she threw out her usual line, "Maybe I should just divorce you and take the house and everything else." This time, instead of placating her, I quietly replied, "Maybe you should." The look on her face was priceless. Before she could respond, I simply walked out, got in my car, and drove to my parents' house with a suitcase I'd packed earlier that day. The text messages started about 30 minutes into my drive. "Wife, where the hell are you going? Wife, are you seriously leaving right now? Wife, answer me. Wife, fine, be a child. We'll talk when you calm down." I didn't respond to any of them. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've been staying with my parents, meeting with my attorney, and preparing for what comes next. I've only responded to her texts with brief, factual answers about when I'll pick up more of my things. Yesterday is when things got really interesting. I received a series of increasingly panicked texts from wife. "Wife, Why can't I access our investment account? Wife, where is the money? Wife, what did you do? Apparently, she finally checked our joint investment account and noticed the significant withdrawal. An hour later, I received a call from her sister calling me every name in the book for stealing from my wife. I blocked her sister and simply texted wife. I only took my documented portion of our joint investments. Everything is properly accounted for and documented with my attorney. You always threatened to leave me with nothing, so I protected myself. This morning, I woke up to 37 missed calls and a voicemail from wife sobbing about how she didn't mean it and we need to talk. She's also suddenly very interested in working on our marriage. Too little too late. Update. 1 week later, asterisk. First, thank you everyone for the supportive comments. I didn't expect this post to get so much attention. After my last post, wife escalated her attempts to contact me. She showed up at my parents' house unannounced. Must have used our location history. My mom told her I didn't want to speak with her right now and that she should respect my space. Wife broke down crying on our porch, causing a scene until my dad came out and firmly asked her to leave before they called the police. Following my attorney's advice, I've kept all communication brief and factual. I finally agreed to meet her at a coffee shop, public place, to discuss next steps. That meeting was yesterday, and wow, it was illuminating. I arrived 15 minutes early and chose a table in the corner. Wife showed up looking like she hadn't slept in days. As soon as she sat down, she reached for my hand, which I politely moved away. Wife, I've missed you so much. I can't believe you just left. Me? I told you I was leaving. You've been threatening to divorce me and take everything for years. Wife, I didn't mean any of that. It was just things I said when I was angry. Everyone says stuff they don't mean when they're mad. Me? I've never threatened to leave you with nothing, no matter how angry I was. This seemed to stop her in her tracks. She started crying and said she'd been talking to her therapist about her anger issues and how she uses threats to feel in control. I just nodded and sipped my coffee. Wife, can you please come home so we can work on this? I promise I'll never threaten you again. Me, I think it's best if we proceed with separation for now. I've already filed the paperwork. This is when things got ugly. Her whole demeanor changed in an instant. Wife, you what? Without even talking to me first? You know what? CKU. My dad knows a great divorce attorney, and we're going to take you for everything you've got. That house is mine too. I was honestly relieved. This was the real her. I calmly pulled out my phone, hit record, and set it on the table. Me. So just to clarify, you're threatening to take everything in our divorce. She suddenly realized what she was doing. Her face went pale. Wife, I didn't. That's not what I meant. Me. It sounded exactly like what you meant. Just like the dozens of other times you've threatened the same thing. I'm done with this conversation. I got up to leave, and she grabbed my arm, begging me to stay and talk. I removed her hand and walked out, feeling more certain than ever about my decision. Final update. 3 months later, asterisk. It's been 3 months since my first post, and I'm ready to share the conclusion to this chapter of my life. The divorce was finalized last week. After months of negotiations, documentation battles, and emotional roller coasters, we finally reached a settlement that my attorney calls very favorable given the circumstances. Here's how it ended up. 1. The house was sold for $480,000. Since I was able to prove it was purchased before marriage with my separate funds and that I made all mortgage payments from my separate account, I received 75% of the proceeds after the remaining mortgage was paid off. Wife got 25% for her contributions to maintenance. 2. We each kept our own retirement accounts. This was huge for me since mine was significantly larger and mostly predated the marriage. 3. No spousal support for either party. 4. We split the furniture and personal items relatively amicably. The turning point came about 6 weeks ago when wife's attorney suddenly became much more reasonable in negotiations. I later found out through a mutual friend that wife had started dating someone from her company and was eager to finalize things. Some interesting developments. 1. Wife's sister called me to apologize for her initial reaction. Turns out wife had been telling her family a completely different version of events for years, painting me as controlling and financially abusive. When the evidence from our divorce proceedings contradicted these stories, her family started questioning everything she'd told them. 2. I've been promoted at work. My boss actually pulled me aside and mentioned that my performance and focus have improved dramatically in recent months. I hadn't realized how much mental energy I was spending managing wife's emotional outbursts. 3. I bought a new condo closer to downtown, smaller than our house, but completely in my name only. It already feels more like home than our house ever did. Last week, after the divorce was finalized, I received a text from wife. Wife, I hope you're happy with yourself. I wasted 9 years with you. I almost responded defensively, but then realized this perfectly encapsulated why we're better off apart. If she views our marriage as a waste rather than a relationship that simply didn't work out, there's nothing more to say. I never responded. My therapist suggested I write a letter to wife expressing all my unresolved feelings, then burn it as a symbolic closure. I did this over the weekend at a small beach bonfire with a couple close friends who've supported me through everything. It was surprisingly cathartic. The most valuable lesson I've learned: when someone tells you who they are, believe them the first time. Wife spent years threatening to leave me with nothing. I finally took her at her word and protected myself. To everyone who followed this journey and offered support, thank you. For anyone in a similar situation, document everything and know your worth.